What was the craziest reason a teacher at your school got fired? In high school, FL 4P, our teacher took us canoeing. Instead of checking the weather, he brought 15 freshmen into the channel our school was on. A severe thunderstorm hit, and our teacher paddled safely back to school and left us teens in the water. We tied our canoes together and rowed back to school, but we were drenched and super late. Our teacher was just standing on the dock, not a care in the world. He got fired like 2 days later. Something like this happened in my country. The outcome was just a bit worse. Some of the students got permanent brain damage because of how long they were exposed to the ice cold water. Our high school art teacher got fired after someone found an old YouTube video of him painting with his ass cheeks. We held a protest to try to keep him around, but they fired him anyway. Pablo Picasso threw a chair across the classroom, hitting a student in the process. I think she was going through a divorce or something, but it was talk of the town throughout the whole week. We never saw her again after that. She thinks she's starring in frickin' Whiplash or something. He was caught putting a camera under the girls' swimming changing room door. Year 6, grade 5. Fricker was sick. A professor at my college was placed on administrative leave because he was charged with participating in the Rwandan genocide and was deported shortly after. He ended up being found not guilty, although I think he's still in a Rwandan prison for denying that the genocide happened. Wait, so he was both accused of participating in it and then sentenced for saying it never happened to begin with? Freaking wild. Maybe he was accused of being in it, so his defense was that he couldn't have been in it because it never happened. Classic checkmate. Judge, did you kill that girl? Man. What girl? Your Honor, girls don't exist. How the frick do you deny that the Rwandan genocide happened? Like, I think we've all seen footage. I was at a Catholic school and one teacher got fired because he remarried after a divorce. Bruh. Fun fact. In the eyes of the Catholic Church, once married, always married, even if you legally get divorced. My aunt and uncle had to petition the Pope. I'm sure not actually the Pope, but yeah, church bigwigs, and prove that her previous marriage ended due to abuse in order for it to be annulled by the church. They had divorced legally years prior. Also that my aunt and uncle could get married in the Catholic Church. If the divorce isn't annulled by the church, any new marriage is considered polygamy. This was probably in the early 80s. Sent a pin link instead of Google form by email. Many students then commented on the video with a lot of great jokes, funny times. Took one for the team. Sounds like you saw the same video. Yeah, I knew one that posted boobs to their course Canvas page and then claimed it wasn't him. There was an IT investigation after they were instantly suspended from teaching. It was him. And he got fired. A history teacher I had in high school gave us a lot of random documentary movie days, during which she would just sit in the back at her desk drinking tea. The year after I graduated, she had a movie day, and when the film ended she didn't get up or do anything but sit there, eyes closed. Fearing the worst, some students went to the office and brought an administrator down who found she was passed out drunk. They found bottles in her desk. I went to HS in the early 80s in a tiny rural Appalachian town 35 miles from the closest traffic light. We had classes that taught auto mechanics, one that taught carpentry, had a motorcycle riding class and a rifle shooting class, and classes for welding and machine shop with lathes and milling machines, etc. The teacher of the machine shop got arrested for making silencers for the mafia. And half the stuff he had us making as class projects on the lathes and milling machines was items he used in making them. I'm from a town like that. Only we had one stoplight in the county. It was on wheels, so you could move it to different places that needed it different times of the year. Officer. So I pulled you over because you ran a red light. Driver. Looks back. Are you sure about that, officer? Officer. Looks back. Sees traffic light being wheeled away. Oh god dang it, not again. I'm imagining the cartoon squeaky wheel sound fading as someone absconds with the light and I'm dying. That's genius. Free child labor, and the police must have been looking for a much larger operation. I bet they never suspected the production was being done on the state's money. Well, they arrested him, So obviously they suspected something lol. Cussing out a student. It was a librarian at an elementary school. Bet that student got an expanded vocabulary after that. A student teacher who was coaching cheer gave a girl pain meds, narcotic, without a prescription or permission from parents. She got fired. Never heard if she managed to get a teaching license after that. I remember a day where I got my braces tightened and asking a friend for a Tylenol. I guess my science teacher overheard, because he gave me one, but he made me promise not to tell anybody. Don't know what would have happened if I told someone my science teacher gave me a pill. Yeah, it's really weird. They did this in my school too. If you needed Tylenol they sent you to the nurse. They wouldn't let you use your own or give out cough drops. One time one of my teachers literally went off on a kid when he was handing out cough drops. It feels so surreal now lol. Our AP calculus teacher in high school had a mental break, ranted for an entire class period about some nonsense, then drank an entire bottle of salsa, stormed out and never came back. They had a substitute for the rest of the semester, which was unfortunate since the sub wasn't a calculus teacher, so they were at a disadvantage for the AP test. An entire bottle of salsa? Like a party bottle of El Paso medium salsa. This is so specific, I can visualize it perfectly. It's stuck in my head on loop now. Cheers. Long story short, my French teacher was fricking the lunch lady in school property. Maybe he was just thanking her for her delicious mashed potatoes? Well, he sure smashed hers. It's a problem cause he was doing it in front of the tots. My band teacher resigned and fled back to his home state, but ended up getting arrested on federal charges. He was having sex with band students on trips, and some of them were across state borders. His house was searched and he had videos. He got 45 days in jail. His parents are affluent and was able to push the trial out several years before eventually pleading guilty. This was after a band assistant was fired for dating a 16-year-old trumpet player while 33. The principal resigned amongst all this. The principal. Item head out. She was hired on because of her experience with band programs and prioritized the marching band. Color good over the sports teams, so controversy in the band program was seen as her direct responsibility. So yeah, she headed out lol. My middle school history teacher, Mr. Lewis, used to invite me and some of my friends, all girls, into his room before classes. Since otherwise we had to stay in the incredibly cramped hallway, this was desirable, especially when he let us play with Cliverbit on his desktop. Mr. Lewis was pretty weird. He only ever wore velvet suits with pocket squares, and sometimes he'd randomly start crying in the middle of class. Weirdest of all, he'd make us listen to his love poetry, dedicated to his dead wife, who we later learned did not and had not existed. In retrospect, that love poetry was definitely for us. Specifically, it was for one of us, my friend Ruth, who looked notably younger than your average 12 years old. He'd always ask her to write notes on the blackboard and stare at her while she did it. The rest of us noticed Ruth was Mr. Lewis's favorite, but it didn't strike us as that weird. Well, one day, it was only Ruth who got to school early. The rest of us didn't come till later. She went into Mr. Lewis's room, and I guess he tried something. Luckily I don't think it got very far. He was put on leave. They brought him back a year later. Fun. That man needs some serious help. He wrote poetry for a bunch of young girls. That's some fricked up stuff. Our teacher was a chronic liar and lied about having a master's and a degree. Funny thing is she actually did have a relevant degree that would have got her the job. Other lies include dating Brad Pitt, being an ex-gang member, and even being a multi-millionaire, but just enjoying teaching. I have some strong deja vu from this comment. I swear I've seen it before. Well, it is about chronic liars. I'm looking at you, OP. Had a history teacher show a bunch of 7th graders drunk history. The goody two shoes of the class asked and told her mum, who complained to the school. He was fired by the end of the week. That's the girl that asks if we need to turn in assignments right before class gets out. Mr. Melville, you forgot to tell us what our homework is. Back when I was in high school I had a history teacher who looked like Santa Claus and for the most part was a cool and funny dude. He made jokes most of the class and kept it pretty entertaining while still being informative. Well, one day there was this tall curly-haired 9th grade kid who was being loud and obnoxious in the hall, and so Santa teacher went out and asked him to stop as the kid was disrupting his class. Kid didn't listen, so he stepped out of the class and asked him nicely to stop talking so loud in the hallway. Now, I'm not exactly sure what the kid said to him, but whatever it was caused my teacher to lose it and punched the kid right in the eye and held him against the locker like the stereotypical bully does to the nerd in TV shows and movies. Kid ended up with a black eye and broken nose, and my history teacher was soon fired after that. Turns out my teacher had a bit of a mean streak that popped up every blue moon. Apparently, he almost fought a bus driver who was about to leave a student who was running late from their last class. I mean, I think this is just me, but I think the bus driver kinda deserved it. Oh, absolutely. If memory serves me right, in the attempt to leave, my teacher held the door to the bus open and wouldn't budge until the kid got to the bus. The bus driver proceeded to ask him, "And who are you to hold my bus and leaving?" And my teacher replied, "I'm Richard fricking Haywood. Who the frick are you?" The bus driver got up to get in his face, but the kid showed up a few seconds later, so nothing else happened after that. His name was Richard fricking Haywood.